So I'll talk a bit about this framework laptop. Have you heard of this company Framework before?
I don't think I have heard of this one.
Okay, so it has been existing for quite some time, maybe 6, 7 years now. And a few weeks or months, about 1, 2 months ago, they announced the new laptop, the Framework Laptop 13 Pro. So the main idea behind the Framework laptops in general is that it centers around ownership and modularity. So they have designed it as a non-disposable sort of long-term investment that is meant to last you years instead of just a few years. So because it is highly modular, so it solves one of the main issues of all the other traditional laptops, you can say, where fixing components like if the port is broken or outdated processors, it's not possible. So with the framework laptops, all of their laptops, everything can be repaired. So or it can be repaired, it can be customized or even upgraded. So you can so it comes in a modular design. You can change the processor itself. So you can the ports are also replaceable, swappable. The battery is swappable in like in Windows laptops. It is swappable in some Windows laptops, but here it is even easier. Like it's a module itself. The screen also, I believe, it is replaceable in some some variants. So their entire thing is about ownership and modularity. And so because of this mechanism, what happens is over time, the person owning this will save more money in the long term because as they own the laptop, they can incrementally replace the parts, whichever needs replacing. They can change the battery, the screen, motherboard instead of changing the or buying an entire new machine because one or two component has stopped working. And one of the crucial thing about this kind of mechanism is that this kind of modularity is that it should be forward and backward compatible with the previous versions or the newer versions. So suppose a new laptop is released today. 5 years later, let's say you have released a new model of that particular laptop. So if you are going to claim that it is truly modular and you can just own this for years, then the components that are part of the new laptop should be also be inserted into the old one. And the components in the old one should also be able to be fixed into the new one. Only then you can truly say it is a modular design and you can own it for years and you can upgrade, customize as you want. Otherwise, it's not truly the case. So here, I think this is their second or third gen. I'm not sure about the generations, but before this, the one, the Pro laptop before this and the one released now is backwards and forwards compatible, meaning the components that will fit into this laptop can also be fit into the older version. So that aspect is there. And
So,
then another, yeah,
yeah, so what operating system does it run? Do you have any idea about that?
it by default, I think it is Windows and also Ubuntu. There is an option to select Ubuntu or Linux as well.
Okay.
So I think software bit is not that difficult to install because all the processor are the same. Like they're not using any new processor. It's all Intel AMD and stuff. The product or innovation is in the modular design of this because also in the current the laptop 13 Pro, the one of the key marketing angle. I don't know if they decided to do that consciously or not, but based on the design, the naming and everything, the comparison automatically went to MacBook Pros from Apple. So this also has good premium build while offering the freedom of an open ecosystem that Apple does not provide. So Apple's choice of hardware is very limited. Once you buy a hardware with particular features or specific specifications, there is no way you can upgrade. In Windows, you can at least, in most Windows laptops, you can upgrade the RAM, the storage. But in Apple, you whatever storage and RAM you buy, you cannot, don't have any option of upgrading them. So yeah, so their main philosophy is autonomy, flexibility, modularity, those kind of things, which is like a complete opposite of Apple's uh, philosophy of their hardware. So framework's biggest selling point is like there's a term called right to repair. Have you heard of that, right? So they're
Yes.
basically targeting that niche. So people should have the right to repair, which includes upgrading, customizing as they want because they have bought the device, they own it. So that is the uh, option they're giving. Also, from like a business point of view, it started as a niche device, as I said, only for people who really cared about the right to repair uh, thing. So for those kind of people were eager to buy this kind of devices, but most other people either did not know or did not care to buy it because it is expensive in terms of like in the same for the same specification you can get a regular laptop at a lower price than this one. So it was there's a premium to buy this device. But now I have seen that they have gotten an official Ubuntu certification. So I don't exactly know what this means because you can basically run Ubuntu in any Windows or any hardware you have. But maybe like it's an official stamp that Ubuntu is saying we have official support for this hardware. But what this does is this they can then now market this as an enterprise solution. So not just consumers but to enterprises as well because enterprises buy all these business laptops like Dell, Lenovo, HP laptops, and they typically would like to keep the same laptop they buy for years and years. Unless and until it stops working, they will not want to replace it. And if you have a framework laptop where it is modular, in case anything breaks down, you can just change the component. Even critical components like processors, etc., you can change. So if over time the processor is gotten old and everything else is fine, you can still just replace the processor and you'll have a good enough machine again. So in that case, in that scenario, they can target enterprise. I'm not sure if they have already targeted, if they have any deals or not, but that could be one possible scenario or market that they can capture in order to become sustainable. Uh, so talking about business point of view, one critical thing or a main point here would be the difference between the economies of scale versus the what was the term? Total cost of ownership. So other bigger brands, like all the major laptop manufacturers, including Apple, they have the advantage of the economies of scale. So because they have a very vast, what is the term, supply chain, they can produce, manufacture lots and lots of laptops and sell it to the masses. They have a big market, so they can afford to give discounts if needed. I mean, Apple still does not. They always sell at a premium, but there are sometimes, let's say, sales or there's discounts. They have the option of giving them. They have the what is the term? Luxury of giving discounts. Whereas this is a niche brand, and I don't even know if they have made profit or not. But you can assume as it is a hardware company, it's even more difficult to make margin. So they cannot afford to give discounts, heavy discounts. That is why they sell their products at a premium. So it is usually a bit more expensive compared to traditional Windows laptops or such. But then comes the point of total cost of ownership. So the ownership cost that consumer whether it's a business or an individual, have to bear over the period of time of owning the device. You buy a Windows laptop, after a few years, if anything goes bad, you'll have to change the entire laptop unless we try to repair it. If something is fixable, like but critical components like motherboard, processor, RAM, those kind of things, if it is not, it is broken, then you'll have to end up changing the entire laptop. Here you have the option of changing just the component. So over a long period of time, over the period of owning the device for, let's say, 10 or more years, you will be spending less. Whereas otherwise, in the 10-year period, maybe you had to buy 2 or 3 times the laptop. So that is where maybe the cost balances out. And yeah, their model also kind of uh, tackles the concerns regarding environment and all this electronic waste and stuff. Because yeah, because if a laptop or any device has a component defect, and in one defect you end up having to throw away the entire laptop, so that's just creating a lot of electronic waste. Whereas if you could just change the component itself, you are saving on that. So yeah, so those kind of aspects is what they are targeting. So I think a few discussions ago we also talked about like Graphene OS, so that targets the open source, big tech free mobile experience or software for Android. And EU is also like here and there they will give out some mandates to that are pro consumer. So for one big example I can remember or think of is them forcing Apple to give USB-C on their iPhones. So for the longest time, Apple was just giving this lightning cable thing because they make a lot of profits from selling the accessories for the lightning cables because it is proprietary to Apple. But since EU forced them that they will not be allowed to sell their phone in the European Union without the Type C port, so they had to move to Type C. So those kind of things. So this is one similar. This is the like the hardware equivalent of Graphene OS for yeah, for open source. So consumer oriented company. So I think it is somewhat encouraging to see this kind of companies come up. But again, I feel this is going to remain niche, even though I would like this kind of thing to become mainstream. But one of the, I think the only reason the
I'm not able to hear you. Hello. Not able to hear you at all. Your screen has frozen. I can see you now.
yeah, just 1 minute. Yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, I think they will remain a niche product or company mainly because of convenience. I think that is the only one factor it is that will stop them. I mean, cost could also be one thing, but the main thing in that applies to the graphene OS as well, and to this kind of product as well. That is the convenience factor. People, the reason they buy iPhone or iPad or even Mac, which I generally consider to be overpriced for what they offer, is the convenience. They don't have to apply their brains so much in when it comes to buying the thing. They know it is a mass product, everyone is buying, so it is safe enough, it works. And for some reason Apple devices also have some kind of status symbol as well, so they end up buying this. So it is convenient, whereas this would require, there's a particular group of people of course who will have the interest or the desire to research things, pick what is the best one for their needs and such. But most people, if they have the money, or sometimes they also might have, usually will buy in credit or so, they will see which is convenient for them and they will just choose that instead of thinking of all the right to repair thing or the e-waste and stuff. So I think, yeah, that friction in people's minds will be there because we have become accustomed to this kind of thing, buying this products, and going any other way at this point, unless there's a strict regulation to control all this, it is not going to go away. Because I think I like try to compare this with the automotive industry. So a lot of the emissions and stuff that are controlled or the companies are trying to control is regulated. It's enforced on them because there are a lot of regulations. If their vehicle do not pass this pollution regulations, these emissions, that emissions, they are not allowed to sell their vehicles on the road. So they are forced to think of their products in that way. But in the consumer gadget domain, there's no such strict enforcement on this kind of thing. Apple is allowed to sell their product whether in any price they want with whatever feature people seem to buy it. So similar example was the USB-C port. Only when they were forced to uh, comply, they did. Otherwise, they did not. So yeah, I also somewhat blame maybe the consumer as well because they were the one who allowed these companies to become this way, or these practices to become mainstream. Because maybe if in the initial stages itself there was, uh, suppose like a market correction, if the people uh, did not buy, then Apple would have, or any company would have changed their ways to get the market share. But because people just bought it, the companies did not face any difficulty in selling this product. So why should they go any other way? That is what I think. Anyways, we have any other points?
Yes, about that part where you mentioned that Apple can charge a premium for their products, even though maybe they are not as good as their price says them to be, but because they are sort of a status symbol, and that's why they can charge those things. And I think there's a reason behind it. I think that can be explained due to the efforts in marketing that they have done. And maybe Apple is the example, but this thing has, uh, I would say, expanded to other areas as well. So the point, I think it's nice that you have mentioned because that kind of research that I'm working currently on electronics manufacturing, I have found certain similarities. Like I can connect certain things. For example, like marketing is actually a very important part here. So I'll give you an example that right now the trend is that there's a differentiation between the companies building those products versus by building, I mean the actual manufacturing and maybe even the R&D part. Those are the what there are certain companies that do that, and there are certain companies that are more focused on manufacturing those things. So things have become separated now. Special there are different companies that are specialized in market in the manufacturing itself. So that is why those companies are called manufacturing. I'm specifically talking about electronics manufacturing here. So like mostly consumer gadgets here, including smartwatches, laptops, phones, those kind of things. And during my research, I found like the difference between OEMs. Like normally when you say OEMs, that means the original equipment manufacturers. But now what's happening is that it's it has become a misnomer. That means the name doesn't even mean what it is supposed to mean. The name, there are two words here, original and manufacturing. The first thing is that the manufacturing of the OEMs are done by other companies. Those are known as EMS, like electronic manufacturing services. So they assemble or manufacture the actual products, which are to an extent designed by the so-called OEMs. Well, but technically they don't even manufacture those things. Now what's happening is that out of the OEMs, M is already out. The manufacturing has been done to the EMSs companies. Now the original part. So they considered at least we do the R&D, we do the research. So at least we are not manufacturing, but at least we are putting the effort in original designs. And that is still correct for I think the higher end products of any categories, maybe whether smartphones, smartwatches, laptops. For the higher end kind of things, I think that is still correct. But for the same brands, the lower end category products that they build, even the O part is gone. The design and those kind of things. Those are also done by the EMS companies now. And those are theirs. So those EMS companies are called ODMs, like original design manufacturers. So basically, those are the same companies, but there are some companies they do not have the capability of, they do not have any capability of even designing an R&D of even this basic products, so they only manufacture. Those are the lower level companies, but there are certain companies that offer a bit of design and manufacturing for the basic products. So those are original design manufacturers. And the key trait of those companies are that they do not, the EMS companies manufacture, the ODMs companies both design and manufacture, but they do not sell those products under their own name. They are contract manufacturers. They manufacture on behalf of other companies. So they do not sell it under their own name. So now the question is, if the manufacturing is being outsourced and even the design and R&D of the basic products are outsourced, then what are these companies doing in the first place? Now,
Just the marketing rate.
exactly, that's what they're doing. They're doing marketing. And why is this becoming an issue? Because right now, I would say that capitalism has reached this stage that engineering or building good products itself is not enough. Like, let us just go back to the far past when like there are just people lived in villages. So, and even today, if you go to small towns, we still have local shops there or like a restaurant or anything. So you are the okay now companies like Zepto and Swiggy are all trying to come as much as possible, but let's assume that they don't exist. So their differentiation, like they exist locally. So that's their only market there. So they, and unlike MNCs or any startup these days, their target market is to acquire as much as possible. They are not satisfied like, okay, like we exist in this small town, this locality is our consumer base, that's it. That's not their target. They want to go as much as possible. Whereas for the local shops, that's not the thing. So they do not, you'll never see an ad of a local restaurant or a local hotel or local grocery shop anywhere, because people know that place and that's enough. And whatever quality of things they're doing is enough. But when you're trying to compete at the at every city, so then how, I mean, like there is, you can't compete directly on products itself. Like certain products are basic. Like let's just think about FMCG. Like by FMCG, I mean like biscuits, maybe soaps, shampoos. More or less, they are interchangeable for most things. Obviously, there exists specific maybe some certain shampoos or something for specific use case, but more or less they are interchangeable. So if you spend time on R&D, research, and those kind of things, you cannot expect to get more market share out of those things. Instead, you have to spend time on marketing. Like all the ads that you see, like Tide, like it goes and it becomes white. That comes, oh, like this is a superior thing. Who knows? Maybe the formula for making those detergent is more or less the same as any other detergent. And nowadays you can see like toothpaste comes in thousand different flavors and models and all kind of things. How different are they? It's like, is the whole point is to clean your teeth. The first toothpaste that was made did its job. I don't think you need any more innovation to clean your teeth. It does its job. It already, that science or technology was already perfected. But right now, if you are a new brand, you cannot compete on just creating a better toothpaste technology, but you can win by creating a better toothpaste marketing.
Mm.
So now that was for simple products. This is now applicable to like more technical products like laptops and phones as well. So to an extent, when there were just a few brands, you can say that, okay, you can just compete on creating superior technologies. But when it comes to now, there are multiple brands. And then what about lower end products? They are by design not as superior, but you still have those kind of products. And so how does two companies within the same price range, they have some smartphones, so how do they win? Mostly through marketing, not through technological innovations. So the whole the reason I gave all those examples is to say the point that marketing is so important for this kind of companies. Like that is why it's so important that they have outsourced the actual manufacturing and the research and development process of the products itself
Mm.
to focus on the marketing part. And I think Apple was a pioneer on in those kind of things. They were the first movers. They did it decades before anyone started. And that's why they hold this premium. So for example, now the laptop that you mentioned, maybe that's better than, that could be better than, I think that is, in terms of the modularity things, it is better than MacBooks because you are free. But people won't do it because their mind has been captured by marketing. So it's engineering the mind. It's not engineering the physical products anymore. You have to engineer the mind. And marketing is, I would say, in the same way like physics is the theory and engineering is the application of physics. So psychology is the theory, marketing is the engineering of psychology. So it is the same thing. Like marketers are applied like engineers of psychology. So they are trying to capture the minds. So because if you just stand back and think objectively, it doesn't make sense at all to buy an overpriced product when you can get the same thing for a lower price. But
Yeah.
Apple can do this. And these things are can be seen in other things as well, like clothes. Like clothes, to an extent, the price reflects the quality. Like if you wear a 500 rupee shoe versus a 5,000 rupee shoe, 5,000 is much better. You can objectively say it's way more comfortable and those things. But if you compare a 5,000 rupee shoe to a 50,000 or a 80,000 rupee shoe, I don't think there would be much difference at all. There's nothing to be more better than what exists at 5,000 for
So
most cases.
like a concept also, right? Like in economics for this kind of like law of diminishing returns or something. Um, I think I don't know if it applies to this, but like we can make an comparison or
Yes,
that as the price increases, the things you get in return decreases.
the value
So
you get out of it,
so
yes.
like at 20,000 you will get like let's say 50% of your total 50% of the smartphone capabilities of
Yeah,
a smartphone. At 40,000 you get 70%.
yeah,
At 60,000 you get 90%.
yes,
70 you'll get 95, and like above lakh 94. So the percentage of the improvement decreases. At that
yes,
point I think they're just because it they are selling it as a premium device. They are
yes,
targeting it to people who have ideally who have the money to spend on it without thinking much. So those
yes,
kind of people, they're buying it is fine. But
yes,
I see people who cannot really afford it, nor do they need it.
yeah,
They usually like take buy this on credit. That that thing doesn't make sense to me.
yes. But yeah, it doesn't make sense logically, but if you look at it from the marketing lens, it makes sense because they have created this perception that this is a status symbol. So to to convince a person that this thing, which in and of itself has no value, but you can somehow market it that it is premium. That's the whole effort that they are putting in their marketing to make something premium. One thing is that it can be genuinely premium when it is objectively better. Like if so for example, as a smartphone, it has better RAM or all this, like it has better camera, better battery life. Objectively, if those are better, then I can totally understand that, okay, this smartphone is 10 times expensive than is maybe a 1 lakh smart. It can be justified that this is priced as 1 lakh versus a 10,000 rupee phone, which is quality is much inferior. And but okay, then again, I'm not saying that iPhone is a 10,000 rupee phone. It is definitely at the top, but again, the premium that they have, the value that they have is because of that hype and the mind engineering that they have done over time. So, for example, many Indian brands, like all those smartwatch and and earbud brands in India, those are just are marketing companies because
Yeah.
they again they do not manufacture them, and they do not only they do not manufacture them, they do not even do any R&D to them. It's just they outsource it from ODMs. As I said, ODMs are they even do the R&D for the basic products like the entry-level smartwatches and earbuds. They do not need a lot of technological innovations. So that's enough. So those companies, they do it and they buy it and like label it through their own thing. So so how are they able to sell it? Through marketing, through those things. So their efforts is on marketing. And yes, so that was the whole point here, the importance of marketing.
Yeah. So talking about this laptop company, actually, I just remembered one company that exists for smartphones as well. I don't know if you've heard of this. Let me see.
Yes, I think I have heard of this.
Yeah, I think so. They have also like similar. Their pitch is also similar. So like yeah, as the name says, the phone that is fair. So I think in terms of the materials used also in terms of modularity and some of repairability, so those kinds of things they are targeting. I did not know they made headphones as well. I don't know how fair these are, but like yeah, you see in the marketing is well fully de-googled Android built on open source tech. So so definitely there exists a niche where people have this craving for less big tech control over their products. That is why these companies are starting to emerge. But I'm
Yes.
just skeptical about the extent to which they can reach. I mostly strongly believe that they will remain just a niche itself and probably will never become mainstream.
Yes, even I think they will remain a niche. And if I want to give some hypothesis, some of it might seem like conspiracy, but uh, let me think. What can I say? First is when you say about convenience and those kind of things, to an extent that is true. But again, it's about creating the perception. Like, for example, I want to say the word woke, but the thing woke has become so negative. Like woke means the left liberal kind of things. But the original intent of woke means to awaken. Means like I'm not a zombie, like whatever the government says, whatever the corporations say, I just blindly accept everything. I use my own mind well, and think, like use my own mind to make sense of things. Because certain things like they do not make any sense, but they are like zombies, they just take it all in, whatever is there. But so woke was talk meant to define those people who use their own brains to think. But now it has been uh, like used to term a different kind of thing. So instead of woke, I'll talk about awakened people. So those are very less in quantity. So that is one of the reasons why they won't. So that's the total addressable market, which I think I've talked last time. So the total addressable market itself is less. To be more accurate, I would say the existing total addressable market is less. That's what I would like to say. Existing total addressable market, because that I use the term because for certain scenarios you create your own total addressable market, even if it's not there by default. Like for example, for certain issues, the market is already there. Like for example, let me give you an easy example. Like you're creating a vaccine for, or you're creating a medicine for diabetes. So there exists a market out there. You don't have to go and create people with diabetes, then you sell them the product.
Maybe in
There
one
exists,
conspiracy, you can say that they are creating people with diabetes
yes, so that they
by the
can,
food industry.
yes, yeah. But I think that's a real conspiracy, which I mean that's a real fake conspiracy. Like that's a nut job theory, which is not true. But again, anyone can say that. But I'll assume that that is not the case. But for example, in certain cases, you have to create. One example is the use case of AI. Now, as we all know that there are two companies that are more focused on consumer use cases of AI. One is OpenAI and another is Gemini. Anthropic is not focused too much on that. And you can see it in their ads. So Gemini, like they have been all. I have a Geo Hotstar subscription, and I think I watch IPL and I watch even football there. And anytime there is a break, you will see some Gemini ad, and the ad is very specific. They will show you how it is used in real world life. Like you'll see that a person is. I'm talking about both OpenAI and Gemini. That someone is preparing for UPSC and he's using the app for like as a chatbot, like, as an interviewer, like okay, ask me questions and those kind of things. In other case, someone wants to plan for a party and they ask Gemini, what should the theme of the party be? Those kind of things. So They are, through this advertisement, they're giving people ideas. See, you can use this AI for those kind of things. So you're creating a market for those kind of things. Because by default, in the people's mind, they'd be like, okay, I want to do my homework. Yes, that's fine. I want to research something. That's fine. But nobody would have normally said, okay, I want to give a party. Let me ask AI. So those kind of things, they won't normally people would not have thought about it. But they are now feeding those ideas through those things and creating a market. So that is how they are creating those markets. And uh, yes, coming back to the whole point of Fairphone and this framework laptop is that I'm think they are not focused too much on marketing, they're focused more on the engineering. But unfortunately, today's uh, business environment is such that you won't win. Honesty won't make you win. So they will remain a niche product, even though the products are more fairer from a consumer's perspective. They are better from a consumer's perspective, but still they won't win because the consumer won't know those kind of things because their mind share is being captured by this other category of predatory capitalist companies whose focus is to extract as much out of them. And since they know how, and they know that to extract as much out of them, they need to capture mind shares. That's why they focus so much on marketing
Yeah.
to create this perception.
Okay, so like I think maybe I'll make one more point regarding this convenience thing I talked about. So on top of convenience, I think it is also a priority thing. So people who are not too bothered or not interested because it requires effort, mental effort. It requires critical thinking. So a person cannot apply that level of judgment to everything in their life all the time. Maybe someone has different priorities in which they are willing to think critically. In terms of buying a gadget for them, they don't care. Whatever is the most popular one, whatever people are using, they will buy it. Suppose in the Western market in the US, maybe it's MacBooks. Because like objectively speaking, if you buy a MacBook, it'll last you years. And for 99% of the use case, it has enough power and everything else. So in some cases, it is also even superior to Windows laptops. So in this that scenario, a person who does not really care about that specific gadget or that specific niche, they will just buy something that exists instead of doing all the research and stuff. They don't have to give brain power into deciding what to buy, and they cannot go wrong. Like objectively speaking, you cannot go wrong buying an Apple product, although they are overpriced. You will not buy an product and regret it because it is going to work. So that in that aspect, one level of decision making is not there for you. The decision may be already created, already decided by the marketing, by the people around you. So if you do not care about that particular aspect, you're fine with it. I happen to have just a natural interest in this direction, so I usually think about these products and stuff. So I also end up researching and end up knowing about different facts here and there. That is how I know about this particular things. But there may be other things in my life for which I do not use that level of critical thinking. Maybe like there's this thing regarding fast fashion as well, but I do not pay attention to it. I like if I want to buy a shirt, I will just search in it either like Myntra, Amazon, or something. Most bought product, most liked something, and I'll buy that one if it looks nice. But maybe people who have an inclination to that direction, they know which brand has what kind of history, what kind of background, which should be avoided, which should be not, which has kami practices. I am not aware of those things. I just buy it. So yeah, I think there like that aspect also, which is why that kind of marketing works.
Yes, I think you're true. And I think not paying attention is not the, I think it's harmless to the extent that it isn't damaging, or it isn't damaging the individual or the society in general. Like wearing a fashionable shirt versus plain black shirt, it isn't harmful for society. But the ignorance, certain times, the ignorance over periods of years or decades creates a social system where that becomes, it becomes very normal, and before you know it, it becomes a dictatorship state, and you won't even know it. I mean, for example, like if you can normalize like surveillance and those kind of things, and because of people are like, yeah, lal bhai, whatever, phone doesn't matter, right? If that becomes the attitude, and so you'll think that okay, surveillance is, it's common for us. But so I would say that again, this is another conspiracy theory from my side, is that uh, for critical, again, comes to critical, it is like thinking. I want just a critical thinking to make it sound complicated. It's just common sense thinking, which requires, like the education system requires, by, I think you'd assume that it requires you to teach those kind of things. But it actually doesn't. And there's a whole, I think I was planning to write about it. There are actually videos there as well. So even if I don't write, there exist there. But I'm even planning to write, but I'm deep inside, I'm procrastinating because I think I might get banned from Google and those kind of, if I create those kind of videos. But I'm going to do it anyways. So, I mean, that is kind of self-censorship if I do it, if I stop doing it. So, the whole point is that uh, there's a channel called Academy of Ideas that had, like, their popular channel. I've been watching them for nearly, I would say, 10 years now. So, they have the whole series about this kind of things, is that uh, the whole education system is to create, so a kind of a obedient society, obedient citizens, to train obedient citizens so that this whole society can run functionally. And so it's not about like uh, critical thinking and innovation and those kind of things. More like he's telling the modern public school that most regular people go to. I think elites have their own private schools and personal tutors where they actually go and learn those kind of things, which did not exist for the general public. And the whole point he makes to us is that okay, you have to be aware of this and try to teach yourself critical thinking and so on to be free and those kind of things. And I see that, I think that's the reason why people do not question those kind of things, and uh, why these kind of things are actually happening. But again, to give a counter example, like to make sense of it, I also think that to an extent it is justifiable to an extent, because again, now as much as I'm for like against uh, too much regulations, like personally I am more of a like free, I won't say anarchism, but it's more like nobody should tell anyone what to do. It should be more like an individual should be as free as possible without telling what to do, what to wear, what to eat, what to think. We should be as free as possible. As much as I think that, I also think that by default humans are animals. If they are not controlled, it will create chaos. It will be like I'm quoting from a documentary where it says that these civil humans that we see wearing clothes, being so sophisticated compared to other animals, is just at the surface level. If the society, something happens a little bit to the order of the society, we will turn into animals in no time. And you can see in certain things like you might see news search in certain cases like when there is a sudden lockdown, when there is sudden stoppages, people will raid the grocery stores. They'll raid, and because their fear comes in, okay, what happens to to society now? I'll take as much food for myself and try to do those kind of things. So what about this civil society? These are in normal situations, these are all so-called people with high-paying jobs, being very intelligent, highly educated. One at one moment at the moment the whole structure of our civilization is threatened, they turn into animals within seconds. And I think in the movie The Dark Knight, Joker says this. I don't know if you've seen that clip or not, but Joker's when he was interrogated by Batman, he says this thing that these humans, they're just like animals. Like this is an illusion, this civil society. Like at the first sign of threat, they will turn into animals. And I think like, and I believe it to be true. As much as I am for free society, I believe it to be true. Because I think to justify my position, I would say that because of the life experiences that I had over the years, I can see this. For example, I would say that uh, in the airport, in I would say in what I've experienced in the Bangalore airport is that there are Ola stands and Uber stands. What you have to do is that you book a Uber, but there are the huge lines. There are like 30, 40 people in the line, and it would take you more than an hour to reach your turn to get a cab, depending on which hour of the day you are in. So most recently, I arrived airport at around 1 o'clock at night, and the rate at which the taxis were coming were very low. So it took me nearly an hour to for my turn to take pick up the cab. But the point I'm trying to say is that it was very civil. There were no 10 security guards or 10 policemen regulating our line, like don't cut the line and those kind of things. People were very civil and behaving very properly. Why? Because I would say that first of all, it's an airport. Second of all, it's a big city like Bangalore. So so the implication is that the people there are mostly highly educated, doing respectable jobs. They aren't savages. So they they behave very civil in very civil ways. At the same time, I have been also into bus stands and railway stations in certain areas where it's like a dogfight. You have to literally push people out of your places to get inside them. And these people are generally from a lower socioeconomic background with education in very, I would say, not very elite schools. They go into very regular government schools and those kind of things. So, and why am I mentioning this? Because that's where the point comes in. Schools are not just for the lessons you learn in the textbooks. It's also about the etiquettes and so on. So when you study at a richer school where students from kids from richer families come in, they have these etiquettes, more formalities and those kind of things, which are not taught at the lower level. So they are more uncivilized in their behavior. So to an extent, you cannot give free rein to this kind of people. They will start looting and the whole civilization won't exist. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I also agree because if you see the internet, there's also like a lot of debate or talks about civic sense in Indians, right? And they will usually give examples of like European countries or even other Asian countries as well. So where people behave a certain way in a civic way. And one of the things I see mentioned is the enforcement of the laws that has been set. For example, one thing that annoys me is the traffic laws, where forget about following traffic laws on the road. People will bring their bikes or get on the footpaths. So as I'm walking around, I'll randomly see two, three bikes coming from behind on a footpath.
Yes.
So and s- they have done it once or twice. They did not see any pushback or any punishment from that. So they did not stop. So if you want them to behave in a civic manner, there has to be enforcement and punishment. So the police person has to stop them or catch them, punish them for what they did, and fine them or something. I also see like I don't know how true or like basically I know in like some Western or Nordic countries, if you break a traffic law, you are fined and it is the fine is enforced and it is like a very heavy penalty. It's not some equivalent to Indian rupees. It's not like 10,000 rupees. Like it will be like a lakhs or so.
Okay.
So people over time maybe develop the discipline to follow the rules. Here you have do not have that level of enforcement. Uh, Another traffic example is like there are two lanes. One is for going forward, another is for coming back. Like one is going one way, another is coming the opposite way. Suppose there is a signal. People on the left lane has to stop, the right lane is coming. But the bikes from the behind will come so much ahead that they'll almost block both the lanes.
Okay.
So to go front. Then the person coming from the opposite lane will be blocked. So this creates this entire traffic situation.
Yeah.
Only if people stayed on their own lane, the traffic flow would have been smooth. But
Yes.
some person could not wait 5 seconds. He came to the front of the lane. Now they've created this 10 to 5 minutes late delay.
Totally. Yeah.
It happens all the time. You just wait 10 seconds, you will be able to go. But they did not wait that 10 seconds and they end up waiting 5 minutes more. So what's the point?
Yes.
So,
So
so that is like this kind of situations like and sometimes like if you are on the road, you know you should not do, but everyone around you is behaving in so chaotically, you cannot uh, you cannot uh, you cannot be in order.
yes.
You cannot afford to be in order.
Yes.
So you have to also start acting chaotically, otherwise it becomes difficult to survive.
Yes. It's the same thing like if someone randomly starts punching you in the street, like you have to fight back at that point.
Yeah.
So my whole
So I
yeah,
think your point, I think ultimately it's about your point of enforcing. If there is no enforcement,
yes.
people will just do whatever.
Yes. My point was something like that. And uh yes, so what the point I was trying to make, let me just summarize it quickly. What I was trying to say is that I'm mostly if kind of a free I'm is something a society that is more free, less control and those kind of things, which like gives more liberty to the people. But then again, I made the argument with all these examples that if you give this kind of liberty, it won't, it will result in chaos because deep inside humans are animals. They will behave like animals. So the current solution is is to control them through either through this whole public school indoctrination system plus all these heavy fines and those kind of things. That's one of the things that is now that's the by far the dominant way of organizing society in today's modern world. And my ideal solution is something else, which I think is very impractical. I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope like that's my ideal solution is that you give people really not propaganda education, not self-controlling education. You give them real critical thinking abilities. And what I think is that if you give them, ultimately they do not have to say that thing. They will arrive at that conclusion on their own. That ultimately the good thing is to behave in that appropriate way in that situation. They will arrive at their own. Now there is a very optimistic way of thinking about it. I don't know, but I think that's what I'm thinking. But that is how that's what my thinking is, because I think order is a universal kind of uh, what is it called, equilibrium point. It's like if it's like a oval kind of thing, and you throw a ball anyway in any position, ultimately it will just come down to this lower point, because that's the equilibrium position. So I think order is an equilibrium position. So you can either try to get there. I'm talking about social order. You can either try to get there by enforcing and forcing people, pushing people there, or you can give them the means to think. And when you give them the means to think, they will naturally arrive at the same conclusion that which order is this is the order. But that's what my belief is. But I don't think it's practically going to happen anytime soon. Yeah, for one of the reasons is that when you have when so the positive thing is that you create a controlled society through propaganda education. The other thing is by propaganda education, I think I mean is that telling people what to do, not training them how to think. The other thing is that it helps businesses and politicians. Like they can pitch their ideas any way they want, and people will are more likely to accept them without much criticism or analysis behind them. And so politicians won't have the incentive to create an education system that will like, eventually harm them in the long run. That's my kind of conclusion here. So one more question that I had, I mean, no, not a question, but a suggestion is that you talked about those kind of modular laptops. I remember that about a year ago, I also watched quite a few YouTube videos about certain startups pitching like similar kind of modular mobile phones or something like that, handheld devices. So if you can go to YouTube and see if it's there or not, like certain small demos are there or not, maybe you can take a look at those kind of things.
Modular handheld devices.
Just you can just like modular handheld devices on YouTube.
What is this?
Or maybe you can also use the word CES because I think those are used there.
The one where you can put in
Yes,
the
I think
keyboard and stuff.
yes, I think this one, the first one is also there. First, second, third, all of them.
Yeah,
Mecca.
this I think both are the same one. Let's
Yes,
check this.
Mecca.
I think it's all
Yeah.
mecha commit.
Let's look at the third one. This Mecca, the one by official Mecca. Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, this is one of them.
So yeah, I don't know. This is this going to be like a I think it will probably be a smartphone itself. But yeah, it is Linux, not even Android.
Yes. Can you just look, are there other such similar products? Maybe go to the same page again, like the home page. Besides Mecca, are other companies also building such things? Um, I think you can remove the CES part. I think others are not used in CES. Yes, this is another one, TechWire, the first one. Billet.
If
I
you've ever
remember
wished you could take your Raspberry Pi projects on the go, Pilot might interest you. It's an open source, modular mini computer built around the Raspberry Pi 5 that recently hit full funding on Kickstarter in just 5 minutes. Pilot comes in two variants, Pilot 5 with a 5-inch screen that resembles a handheld console, and Pilot 7, a larger 7-inch tablet-style device. Both feature 7-hour battery life and run full Linux distributions, with Pilot 7 defaulting to KDE Plasma. The Pilot 5 includes a trackball, scroll wheel, navigational switch, game buttons, and a thumb-typing keyboard running QMK firmware. The 1200x800 IPS touchscreen combined with these inputs creates versatile interaction options. Pilot 7 offers more screen space and now includes confirmed detachable modules like keyboards and gamepads after reaching stretch goals. What's interesting is the battery management system. Using Texas Instruments TPS 61088, it reliably delivers the 5 amps the Raspberry Pi 5 needs while letting you charge from any standard USB source, even if it can't provide 5 amps. The module automatically boosts current when needed. The open source commitment is comprehensive. They're releasing complete schematics, KiCad PCB files, CAD files, and all software under CERN OHLS and GPL licenses. You can modify and 3D print components yourself. Important considerations: this is a DIY kit requiring assembly. The Raspberry Pi 5 board isn't included. Batteries are an optional add-on, and shipping plus import duties are extra. Factor these into the total cost beyond the $199 starting price. 2 modules are in development: an NVMe module free for Kickstarter backers and an LT module supporting calls and data. Pilot isn't competing with mainstream tablets on specs or polish. It's for tinkerers, developers, and learners who value openness and customization over consumer convenience. If you want a portable, hackable Raspberry Pi setup with decent battery life, it's worth considering. Just understand the total costs and crowd-funding risks before backing.
Yes.
Okay.
These are all the same
So yeah, like
category of products.
so many different like niche or unique kind of products exist. Like so many of them I'm not even aware of.
Can you
So
also,
yeah,
yeah, this is also one of them, yeah. But
again, like yeah, but it's mostly the Mecha thing only. Mecha Comet
yeah,
and Billet.
Billet. Yeah, this framework also has handheld device or a gaming device.
I'm not sure if it is official framework or not.
So is there a laptop also? Can you show a similar video related to framework laptops? Some small promotional kind of videos.
Yeah. Say this one. Their promo itself is 13 minutes. Actually, do you know this channel,
Yes,
Sam Time?
yes,
I
yeah,
think it makes kind of like satire. Maybe we'll just watch this.
yeah. You can watch this one.
What's this? Framework just released the MacBook Pro of Linux computers. What's this? Framework just released the MacBook Pro of Linux computers that even comes with Ubuntu pre-installed. And they're calling that a feature. I would have kept that one to myself. Oh, hi there. I'm Sam Tucker from the computer company that likes to glue everything down. But you may have heard recently that there's another way, as Framework has just announced their all-new, upgradable, premium Linux laptop called the Framework Pro.
We called it Pro for a reason, to knock off Apple.
Well, that sounds about right. So, one of their biggest innovations was to go with the chip company that we left for a reason, Intel. And I'm sorry to say, but I think Intel pulled a fast one on them. Not a fast chip, but a fast trick.
It's going to be great. Thank you, team.
Wait,
Because they said they sold him 3 different tiles, but call me crazy, but he keeps pointing to the same one.
the CPU tile is on Intel's new 18A process node. This tile here is the GPU tile. This third tile here is the I/O tile.
Blue Steel? Ferrari? Latigra? They're the same face! I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
They upgraded their battery to get closer to our level of longevity.
MacBook Pro level battery life.
They didn't copy all the glue we put on our Pro batteries though. Maybe next time. And they also tried to emulate our world-class trackpads.
We have a new, larger touchpad, and it's actually haptic. We know the golden standard in the space is the MacBook Pro. No PC maker has ever been able to catch up.
Wow, they keep going on about our build quality and trackpads. Is this video an advertisement for them or for us? Next, they'll be complimenting our new CEO. Oh, they did.
This is an incredibly cool, heterogeneous.
Well, thank you. Framework made their own custom bright display for this model that even has touch support built in. Because if it wasn't bad enough just to look at Linux, well, now you can reach out and touch it. Ugh. But you know what? Good on them. We're happy to have Framework contribute any of their crazy ideas to the tech industry.
Framework Laptop 13 Pro is one of the first laptops in the market to ship with an entirely new memory module format that enables, for the first time, to be modular and upgradable.
Sorry, upgradable memory, did you say? Get the fuck out of here. Because don't you know, RAM is so valuable nowadays, it's like putting a precious jewel in your Final Fantasy sphere grid. Heck, Thanos was like the most powerful and he could only find 5 gigs for his super glove. Framework also has upgradable storage on their motherboard, Wi-Fi on their motherboard. Heck, the whole motherboard itself is backwards and forwards compatible with the previous model. Jeez, that's bold of them. At Apple, we don't even let our users use their same phone case as last year. Thankfully, it's not all about upgradability though, as they do provide an option to have Windows pre-installed if users want to choose a downgrade. Wow, you know, we make fun, but Framework seem to be doing pretty good for themselves, especially with all their investors going out and buying private jets all of a sudden.
24 karat on that, baby. Is it actually?
Yeah. Although, to be honest, a real tech bro owns a whole airline or a private spaceship fleet. Anyway, as you may know, Framework is part owned by one Mr. Linus Tips, who the CEO jokes is one of their smallest investors, which is a bit mean. I mean, I thought he was at least 5'6". In any case, Framework, well done. You can go on making your MacBook of Linux, as we're quite happy making the MacBook of MacBooks. The all-new Framework Laptop Pro, a DIY Linux user's wet dream, and the dry dream for everyone else.
Subscribe today!
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the
Okay.
Yeah. Mm. He sort of made more satirical fun here, but
Yeah, but
I think
got
the
the
aspects
point.
are clear. Yeah. Maybe we can see some anyone opening it up or something. This is just 30 seconds.
Ready?
Right on cue. Wait, you can do that?
Yeah, maybe that shows some of the modular aspects of the laptop.
Yes.
Others are all long videos.
So what did you say about its enterprise thing?
I don't know if they have any enterprise deals or not, but given that now they have the Ubuntu certification as well, they can market their laptops to enterprise. And given that they're modular, uh, as time progresses, if there is a need to upgrade the processor and stuff, it will be cheaper than just, buying a whole new laptop. So in that one aspect itself, I think they can market themselves to the enterprises as well. But I
Yes.
don't know the details of if it's actually done or if they have planned it or not.
Yeah. So I think we'll just have to look and see how this kind of
Mhm.
devices are, how popular they become. And definitely say it's not going to like become the main thing, but at least is their market share going to increase by any extent or not?
Mhm.
Remains to be seen. Because even me, as at a personal level, I'm trying to get as far, it's like trying to distance myself from big tech technologies as much as possible. Like, for example, my usage of Google has reduced. Like, I don't use their browser, and even the search engine, I use DuckDuckGo for normal things as much as possible. Again, the thing is that even I get even though I actively don't want to do it, but I see how much like my habit has become to use those kind of things, those Google thing. So now it requires active thing that should I use it or should I not? So
Mhm.
like if I want any kind of AI answers, I'll rather use ChatGPT because I'll say that okay, Google, you are already too big. I know ChatGPT isn't any better, but at least I'll not allow you to win any further in kind of collecting personal data. Let ChatGPT have part of my data. And in terms of pure like traditional search engine, I'll use DuckDuckGo, which which is quite good, like from my point of view. So, and I think long term, again, it's a friction, but again, the operating system also I'll try to get rid of Android devices and so on, because it's only going to get more and more pervasive, the surveillance and everything. I
Yeah.
think, yeah. So maybe it's time to end, but just one more thing I'll talk about because I just heard about it, about the like banning social media in UK and other European countries, I think so. I think about maybe 6 months or a year ago, it was in Australia. It happened.
Mhm.
And I'm not up to date about what's the status right now, but I just saw today, or maybe it was yesterday, that UK is also trying to do the same thing. And the whole point is the same thing. Like the pros are saying that, okay, it's for children, it's a win for children's safety. Like the point is that under 16, it's banned. But the cons are saying that the first reason is that you have to now to say that I'm not a children, I am an adult. What's the first thing you have to do? You have to give government IDs, like official IDs. And what does that do? It connects your account to your ID, which becomes so easy. Now it becomes very convenient to track you, track your online footprint and connect it to you. So you can't be anonymous anymore. So it's another form of surveillance
Surveillance.
that is like marketed as the like children's safety. And I'm not sure what's the true thing, but I get the logic because I that's the whole point of marketing anything. Like is the thing is that I want something, but I have to convey it to the public in a way that doesn't seem like I'm trying to rip them off. I have to try to give them a reason to believe what I'm doing, even though that may not be my correct thing. So maybe it's genuinely true that they're trying to save children, but from another point of view, let me think like if I'm a government person, if I want to create, if I'm thinking, if I'm brainstorming, how can I create a surveillance system for my in my country. Okay, I can track people's online browsing habits to their digital ID. So if there is a way I can connect to them, that is going to be beneficial for me. But if I directly say to them, like, I want you to connect to your digital ID to your browsing activities, people will obviously protest. So how can I package this message to them in a way that they are going to give it to me? I don't even have to convince them. Then I'll come up with this idea. We want to have children. Now it's a good pitch. It sounds like a good pitch. So this is how I think their one way their thought processes go.
But like whatever the case may be, I think it is doing both,
Yes,
because
I think
ultimately it is true that it's better that people lower than 16 do not access social media.
yes,
I think uh, surveillance is one thing. It's true that it is net negative, but if you get accustomed to or addicted to social media, I think it's in some ways you can even argue that it's worse.
yes, it's worse, definitely. But from my point of view, I would say that if someone is serious about it, I think, like I would say that there's thing called sticks and carrots or something like the punishment versus those kind of things. I would say that at least from my point of view, and I think it's true for most children, like if you tell a children not to do something, that's exactly that's what that they're going to do. So like this kind of strict enforcement is never a long-term or a convenient solution. And one of the counter arguments I saw is that uh, they can use VPN anytime. They can use
Yeah.
VPN and they'll be free. So all this legal thing doesn't make any sense. And children are already well accustomed to using technologies way better than these boomers or even millennial parents. Like I think I'm the last generation, last millennial. I'm not by that I mean I'm people from 1997 onwards are Gen Zs. So was born in 1995. So I'm the last generation of millennials. I think it started in the millennials, I think it's from 1980 onwards. I think so, from 1980 to 1995. So the early millennials, I think they are the parents of teenagers. So I think the parents of these people, the 16-year-olds. So they would be very. So my point is that if you really want to stop people from, stop children from not using social medias, I think some other techniques has to come instead of ban, at least even I would have even just find it justifiable if parents at their home stop like, okay, I'm not giving you smartphones. Something like that also I could have agreed to, like, okay, it's a personal matter, like people are doing it. But legally it doesn't make any like I'll start using VPN. So it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, because at the whole point I found this news is because of Elon Musk. Like he's all saying like now UK has become a like surveillance state and so on. So he's also start trying to put his own angle there. So let's see
Mhm.
what happens now. I'll see. So anything else?
No, I think yeah, we can end.
Yes.